Okay, so this is going to be arcing the grand hammer, which of course is the way the tail is arced, and that's so that when the hammer comes up, let's see, hammer comes up the back check, and then it kind of has a place to slide onto the back check. And here we have some of the originals. You can see the way those were arced. With the tail there. And this this drill bit is supposed to be nice and tight in our hole here. Will you hand me some masking tape out of the... So this drill bit, we're not actually using it as a drill bit, we're just using it as a shank.
Imitation shank.
Yeah. Thank you. See if we can...
It's slightly bigger than the shank, so it can be nice and tight.
Yeah. Yeah, we want it snug for this. We want the whole, and I mean, we could go find another drill bit too, one that's I don't know, 10 thousandths larger than this shank, and that would probably work. That might be too much. Okay, so I didn't go all the way around. Let's see if that'll be any better. It was kind of bunching up the tape. Yeah, that's nice. And this, you want to, in order to get it consistent, when you do your samples, you want to just be sure that that drill bit is flush with the top. That'll just give you consistent results, right? So you have that drill bit flush with the top of the hammer. So of course, grand hammers, the bore is all the way through. Upright hammers, the bore is only, I don't know, 3/4 to, or slightly more. It's not all the way through. It's almost all the way through, but not quite. Often we'll use a brad point to do the boring, and on a perfectly bored set of upright hammers, the brad point will go all the way through, but so there'll be like a little pin prick on the other side of the upright hammer, but the actual bore itself, which is about 218 to 228 thousandths, that only goes to, you know, just beneath the surface. So when you put your shank in on a upright, that little pinprick ends up being an area for glue to squeeze out. Okay. Otherwise it ends up being a hydraulic piston. If it's too tight anyway, it ends up being a hydraulic piston, and you can't push it in. The glue will just get stuck in the bottom of the hole, and you can't push it in all the way. Okay. So the way I set this is obviously the hammer itself protrudes further than the plane of the sandpaper. So we've got to do it over to the side. We can't do it over here, right? Because we're doing the tail and that hammer would get sanded. So we're going to do it off to the side here. And then and the way this works, there's a little keyhole right here. AJ, can you see okay? Okay. There's a keyhole there and there's a little knob here. This is going to be clamped down so that that knob goes on the larger part of the keyhole. This scoots forward against the sander and then spins like that. This screw here determines your radius, okay, which is, that's a reflection of your radius there. This screw here is going to be adjusted up to support the bottom of the hammer, okay, and that should be consistent. Hopefully it'll be consistent with every hammer. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this all the way up so that it's pivoting on the thing, assuming my radius is correct. I'm just kind of looking at the old hammer and I'm seeing how that looks. Do you want to have a look at how that's going?
Just barely brushing against it.
It's putting some tension. Okay, so I'm going to say that's probably too, it seems like it's too steep of a radius. So if I go out, let's see what that does. So I'm increasing the radius. Okay, so that seems better to me now. Could go maybe even slightly more. So the further up this screw is, the smaller the radius, right? Because this is the pivot point is right here. So the further up, the closer we are. So this is the radius right here. This is the center of the circle right here, and then this is the edge of the circle. So the larger the radius, which is this dimension here, the less curvature. Thank you. Shallow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more shallow. Right. Exactly. I think I went a little far, because it didn't seem to be quite contacting it. Okay, that looks pretty good as far as radius. So I just adjusted that to support the tail of the hammer, since that's really where the pressure is. So let's make sure that tail is adjusted correctly for our hammer. Will you get a drill bit that find one that fits that nice and tight?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that instead of tape.
Okay.
Okay, so I want the hammer right there to contact the jig at the same time that the hammer contacts the screw. And right now I'm seeing a little bit of daylight in there. So I'm going to go down a little. Okay, that feels good. And then as soon as AJ finds one, we'll replace it with that one, and then we'll screw this in tight, and then our jig should be basically set. I hope. Instead of just going for it, I'm going to intentionally clamp the jig a little bit too far this way. That way I'll do less potential damage. Like if I'm going too far, you know, and I'll slightly nudge it. Let's grab a different clamp maybe that can be a little more user-friendly to quickly adjust. Let's do one more, yeah. Thank you.
So 2 clamps there, 2 clamps there.
Yeah. We might even be able to use this. Yeah. We'll use that when we figure out our correct spot.
You were gonna do it with your fingers.
So now I'm going to tighten that screw, and now I think our jig should be mostly set. Yeah. Okay, so we got a good snug fit there. So we should be able to just pop them on and off as we go through. So really there's nowhere for the hammer to go. It's touching here. Obviously it's in the shank. It's touching there. Okay, now we hope. Okay, so we'll push it forward a little bit. Try that. a little better. Sorry.
Yeah, this side is like bigger than this side.
Yeah, it's because they're
The bit of the angle.
it's because they have a pitch or a yeah, and that is kind of an issue, but the good news is the old timey guys did that too.
Cool.
Really did.
Yeah. So we're not in that bad company. But you'll notice as we go up and we get to the ones that are not drilled at an angle, those will be straight on. But I know it kind of offends my sense of wanting everything perfectly uniform and everything. Okay, I'm going to move it forward maybe ever so slightly. Whoop. Kind of move that. Okay. I think we're zeroing in on a good angle. Hold on. Let's have a look at that and then pass it around.
So, like, my original thought was that the bump, where it wasn't supposed to be there, but that's okay, where it has, like, kind of chop down there. Like, I always thought that it was a smooth curve.
Well,
Like, or is that just based off of which piano?
maybe we could refine it.
We probably could. Yeah, we probably could.
Yeah. It's really slight.
Yeah. Do you want to grab a little sanding paddle?
You want to put the hammer? There's a drawer with the hammer.
So if the new hammers are flat on top, there's going to be
Straight
some
in.
sort of corner there.
If they're flat on top, what?
I mean, the new hammers are flat on top, so there's going to be a corner there.
Yeah.
No matter how it's
Yeah,
adjusted.
that's right.
Oh, okay.
Straight with the smooth.
See how the corners are.
So that angle, just looking at it, that angle looks more important than the coving.
Yeah, coving, I don't know how much is tradition and how much is, I don't know, removing weight. Yeah, removing weight would be my. Tapering, of course, gives you clearance, gives you more clearance, especially on the angled hammers. I'm really not sure.
That arc is where it contacts the back.
Right, so it's super functional.
I got you. And do that, what, 88 times, right?
Yep.
First time I checked my math, that sounds like.
Mhm.
You can do it. I usually end up doing about 196 times.
Does that feel better, Jordan?
I was just curious because yeah, if it would affect how it was, or is it just based off preference?
I kind of want a thinner like point, which again I don't think matters, but it's just how you usually see.
So that kind of comes with points.
Yes.
Okay, so there. Now do that 88 times, and then the next step is tapering.
Sweet.
Okay. So it's all about setting the jig and being like really careful, really incremental. And then once you've got your jig set, then you can just cruise through it. And I mean, this is going to take you, what, probably like 15 seconds per thing. So what is that, like 20 minutes or 15, I guess, 15, 20 minutes to do all 88 of them. Okay. All right. There it is.
And the ones that are really, really